Ever heard someone say spill the tea or hit the sack and had no clue what they meant?
Welcome to the Duo Dialogues, where fluency gets fun and fearless.
Previously, we tackled powerful negotiation phrases. Now it's time to talk slang, how real people speak on the streets, in memes, and in casual chats. Ready to sound cool?
Let's begin.
Okay, here's a question for you. What does spill the tea actually mean?
Yes.
And why on earth would you tell someone to break a leg when you're just wishing them good luck?
It seems so weird, right?
They're fantastic examples, really. They plunge you right into the fascinating, sometimes confusing world of English slang and colloquialisms.
They really do get you thinking about how language works, don't they? All focused on understanding and maybe mastering English slang. And our mission today in this deep dive is really to unpack all of that. We want to get into not just what these phrases mean, but, why they actually matter in real conversations.
Right.
And how you, the listener, can potentially use them to sound, maybe a bit more natural, more connected when you're speaking English.
Yeah, it's almost like learning the secret codes of the language, isn't it? It's constantly changing, it's full of these little quirks, and honestly, it's quite fun. I'm definitely excited to dig into the specific examples in this material.
Absolutely. And understanding these nuances, it's really key. It takes you beyond just grammatical accuracy. It pushes you more into the realm of cultural fluency, which is such a valuable layer for anyone really trying to navigate conversations in English today.
Okay, so let's dive straight in. The big question our sources tackle pretty early on is, why even bother with slang? I mean, isn't standard English enough to get by?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and the material explores it well. Standard English is, of course, the foundation.
Yeah.
But slang, it isn't just like random casual talk.
Okay.
It actually functions as a pretty powerful signal. It shows cultural connection, a sense of belonging. Using it the right way shows you're not just speaking the language, you're sort of participating in the conversation in the community.
So it's less about showing off vocabulary and more about signaling that you're sort of in the know, part of the group.
Exactly. It could definitely suggest a higher level of fluency because, it demands an understanding of context, of social dynamics, things that go way beyond what you learn in a textbook.
Makes sense.
However, and the sources are really, really clear about this, context is everything. Absolutely critical.
So knowing when to drop a slang phrase is just as vital as knowing what it means?
Precisely. The material really emphasizes this. Using slang chatting with friends, great. It builds rapport.
Yeah.
But, dropping spill the tea in a formal business meeting, probably not going to land well. It could make you sound unprofessional or just out of place. It really is about having the right tool, the right language for the right situation.
That makes perfect sense. It's like having different outfits for different occasions, right? You wouldn't wear beach shorts to a formal dinner.
Exactly.
So knowing the language's sort of dress code is crucial.
A perfect analogy. Spot on.
Now, this is where I think it gets really interesting. Looking at how fast language shifts, especially, because of social media, online chatter. Our sources pointed out a whole bunch of trending slang words that have really taken off recently. Let's unpack a few.
Sounds good. The material kicks off with one we've already mentioned, spill the tea.
Right.
Which basically just means to share gossip or secrets, the juicy details.
So instead of saying, tell me what happened, you might just lean in and say, okay, spill the tea. It adds a bit of drama, doesn't it?
It definitely does, and it's become incredibly common. Another one, reflecting our modern communication woes, I suppose, is ghosted.
I guess.
This means being completely ignored without any explanation, especially after you've been talking to someone like online or in dating.
Yeah.
They just vanish.
Oof, that painful silence. Yeah, that term really captures that specific frustrating feeling. That's probably why it stuck around. Okay, what about flex?
To flex simply means to show off. Usually it's about material things, possessions, or maybe achievements. Bragging, basically.
Yeah, like someone constantly posting pictures of their expensive new watch or maybe their fancy car.
Yeah.
They're totally flexing. Simple word, but it nails the action perfectly.
Very concise, yes. Then there's FOMO. Huge one now. It's an acronym, of course.
Fear of missing out. Oh, that feeling when you're scrolling through social media and see pictures of everyone else having an amazing time somewhere you're not.
That's the one.
That instant pang of, oh no!
I feel it.
Oh, that's FOMO. It really says a lot about well, modern social pressures, I think.
It really does. The sources also list lit,
Lit, okay.
which is generally used to mean something is amazing, exciting, or full of energy.
Like, that concert last night was absolutely lit, just buzzing with energy.
Exactly. And one more from this trending list, vibe check.
Vibe check. Okay, tell me about that.
It's essentially assessing the mood or the energy. It could be of a person, a place, even just a situation. You're checking the general atmosphere.
Right, like you walk into a party or a coffee shop. Is the music good? Are people seeming relaxed? Is the overall feeling good? You're kind of intuitively doing a vibe check.
Precisely. These terms are really great examples of how language adapts so quickly to new experiences.
Yeah.
And how platforms like social media just accelerate how fast these words spread.
Yeah.
Understanding them is pretty essential if you want to follow casual conversations today, especially online.
Definitely. Okay, so moving on from the super current stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about phrases that have, been around the block a bit longer. Those classic, everyday slang phrases you're likely to hear all the time. Our sources had a good list of these too.
Yes, these are phrases where the non-literal meaning is just widely understood. They're almost like mini idioms, really.
Yeah.
For instance, the break a leg we started with sounds painful, right?
Totally.
But it actually means good luck, especially before some kind of performance, like acting or giving a speech.
It's completely counterintuitive on the surface, but everyone just gets it in context. Another really common one, hit the sack.
Simple. Just means go to sleep or go to bed. Okay, it's getting late. I think I'm going to hit the sack. Much more relaxed than saying I'm retiring for the evening.
Definitely more relaxed. And everyone loves it when a task turns out to be a piece of cake.
Meaning it was very easy to do. Super simple. I thought that exam would be hard, but honestly, it was a piece of cake.
Such a satisfying feeling when that happens. How about on cloud 9?
That describes being extremely happy, like elated. Often after some wonderful news or event, when she finally got the job offer, she was on cloud 9 for days. It paints a vivid picture of pure joy, doesn't it?
It really does. And a classic description, often used quite playfully, couch potato.
Yes, the couch potato. A person who, well, spends a lot of time sitting or lying on the couch, usually watching TV, maybe surrounded by snacks. A lazy, inactive person, basically.
I think we all probably have our couch potato moments now and then. These phrases are great because they're just so widely understood. You hear them pretty much everywhere English is spoken.
They really do form a kind of common ground in everyday colloquial English. Very useful to know.
So understanding these common phrases then highlights another really interesting aspect the sources explored. The fact that language isn't the same everywhere. These regional differences, they add even more, flavor.
Absolutely.
It means where you happen to be in the world can genuinely shape the specific words people reach for.
Definitely. The material actually included a great little comparison table showing this. Take, for example, how people might informally refer to another person, often a friend.
Okay.
In American English, you hear dude all the time, right?
All the time.
But in British English, it's much more common to hear mate. And then in Australian English, you might well hear bloke.
It's really striking how different they sound, yet they serve such a similar social function. I remember visiting the UK and hearing mate constantly. Felt very friendly, very welcoming once you got used to it.
And it's not just terms for people. Even really basic, everyday vocabulary can shift quite significantly. What Americans generally call trash, Brits usually call rubbish. And the container you put it in, well, that could be a trash can in the US, but a bin or even a dustbin in the UK or other places.
Simple things. But they can definitely trip you up for a second if you're not expecting that difference. And terms of approval vary too, right? Like American, cool.
Compared to British, brilliant for something good, or maybe Australian beaut, short for beautiful, but used more like great.
Wow, okay.
These regional variations, they aren't just, little quirks. They're actually deeply tied to cultural identity, to history. They really show the rich tapestry of English as it's evolved differently around the globe. Learning about them helps you appreciate that diversity.
So understanding all these different kinds of words, the trending ones, the classic, the regional ones, it really brings up an important practical question that the sources push us to think about. How do you actually know when it's appropriate to use, say, a trending slang term versus a classic phrase, or when you should just stick to more formal language?
That is such a crucial skill, and the material highlights it well. It's the ability to switch between different language registers.
Yeah.
Formal versus casual.
Right.
It depends entirely on the situation, who you're talking to, the setting, It's something native speakers often do, almost instinctively.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
Exactly. But it's definitely a learned skill, especially for language learners.
It's like having different settings on your voice, sort of.
Yeah.
You adjust the formality level depending on who's listening.
Precisely that. Think about the examples the source material gave. In a very formal setting, you might ask someone, "Could you kindly explain that to me?" Very polite, very standard.
Okay, very probable.
But if you're with a close friend and the topic happens to be some juicy gossip,
Yeah.
you might switch registers completely and just say, "Okay, spill the tea."
Whoa, yeah. The sheet and tone in context is enormous there.
Totally different. And it's appropriate because the register, the language style, matches the social situation. Another pair from the sources. Formally, you might say, "I am feeling extremely tired."
And informally, maybe chatting with colleagues after a long day.
You'd probably say something much more like, "Wow, I'm totally wiped out," or "I'm beat."
Yeah, wiped out feels much more common and natural in that casual setting.
It does. And mastering this ability, this knack for smoothly switching between formal and casual language, that's a really significant step towards sounding natural, towards navigating different social interactions effectively. Just like the sources suggest, it really helps you integrate and, well, sound like a native speaker, if that's the goal.
So it's not just about learning more words, it's really about understanding the social map of the language and how to find your way around it.
Yep.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up this deep dive, we've seen that slang and colloquialisms, they're pretty vital, actually.
Yeah.
They show cultural connection, fluency, provided you use them in the right context. That's key.
Crucial.
We explored some of those fast-moving, trending terms, often boosted by social media. We looked at timeless classic phrases that are just part of the everyday fabric of English. We dipped into some of those fascinating regional differences.
Dude, mate, bloke.
Right. And we talked about that essential skill of code switching, basically shifting between formal and casual ways of speaking.
And probably the best way, really, to get a handle on all of this is just through exposure and practice. Listening carefully to how native speakers use these phrases in real life, in movies, online, and then maybe trying them out yourself in safe situations.
Absolutely. So as a final thought for you, the listener, building on everything we've talked about today, maybe take a moment to think about the slang you hear around you. It could be in English media you watch or listen to, or even in your own native language.
Yeah.
What does the popularity of certain slang words or phrases tell you about what's important to people right now, what's changing, or just how people are connecting in that culture at this moment?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Language really is a living mirror reflecting society.
It truly is. Well, we really hope you found this deep dive into English slang insightful, maybe even a little bit fun, and perhaps it sparked some curiosity about the language you encounter every single day. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Keep listening, keep exploring. There's always more to learn when it comes to language.
And definitely stay tuned for more deep dives into fascinating topics right here.